To me, what describes leadership to me is loyalty. That the people working with you have got to feel like you've got their best interest at heart. I don't know. I can tell you the biggest challenge in my world is that everybody wants to be a leader, and you have differences of opinion that instead of talking to somebody on the side, they'll blow it up in front of everybody as to the way certain things are going. So let's say if I'm a chair of a committee, or if I'm running something over here and someone on my committee doesn't agree with that, rather than coming and talking to me about it, they'll throw it up to the whole committee to decide. So it's almost like, let's gang up on that person. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing a bit more of that, and I think people are just, and maybe this is just the environment that I'm living in, but maybe more and more people want to be that leader, which in most cases I just say, okay, great, would you like to be chair? And they say no, and then it kind of calms back down. That's a good question. And today, I am inspired every day by people I meet on this campus. And the example of the woman today was, she is a non-traditional student. Her and her husband have launched a business, and she is, they're busy. And she's trying to figure out how to finish her degree through this process. I mean, she'd easily walk away and say, I'm doing this, I'm gonna put this down for a while. But she is finding a way and working with me to try to figure out how to finish off the coursework that she needs to have. Great. So I think that's inspiring. I mean, she could easily walk away. I don't have one. I don't. I like reading about events that happened and looking at the historical leadership on both sides. Like, let's say the Civil War. I like to look at what Abraham Lincoln did and stuff he had to go through. And then I like looking on the southern side. I like to read General Robert E. Lee stuff and what he went through. They were all put in terrible situations, and seeing from his perspective what he was up against, and then what the opposite side was up against with General Grant, and try to see what they had, because now it's easy to go back and say, oh, one was on the right side and one was on the wrong. It was not the same way then. It wasn't as easy to figure all that out when you were living in those times. So I like to look at both sides and see from different perspectives. So I just like eras rather than specific leaders. Unfortunately, he was. Yeah, a terrible person, but a leader all the same. No.
Okay.
In my world, in my circles, not at all. I don't even think of her or see her in anything. So, but maybe she is for someone else, but in my world, she has no leadership.
All right.
I think that one is responsibility. That whatever my parents, they never just said, I said, oh, I want this new thing. They would say, great, you get an allowance and you can save up for it. They taught me that if I really wanted something, I had to work to get that, and that responsibility to make those decisions was on me. Because if they say, okay, you took your $2 allowance and went and blew it on video games, this is Pac-Man era, go blew it on video games, then you're not going to get that football that you wanted or whatever. So, and then taking responsibility for your actions. So if I chose to do something over here, they let me learn that process and then live with the consequences. They didn't just try to save me every step of the way. This professor, Dr. Weisenberger, we were talking about something, and he said, what the most important thing I can tell you is you have to leave. You cannot stay in Richmond. You cannot go home. You have to go somewhere else. And we started talking about that as to why. He goes, you're limiting your pool of opportunity if you're saying, I'm going to live in these two areas. And I think that's something in a lot of our students in Colorado and at Metro State want to stay here. And why wouldn't you? It's a great place to stay. But if you can, I know some people are in different situations, but if you could move, there's booming areas where you can move and get that job that you actually want to get into, because fewer people are living there. And you go move somewhere else like Omaha or someplace like that, there's a lot of jobs in Omaha that you probably wouldn't qualify here yet, but in Omaha you could. So that was great advice to me, is to get up and move, because nothing really happened with my career until I totally moved away into a different environment. That has always been, it's never changed for me, is relationships. I want people to respect and like me. It's always one of I'm very concerned of that, and I always have been, and I've given up trying to get over it. That's just how I am. So I want people to see what that task is, but together we'll work on that together. It goes back to the loyalty aspect of the first question. I'm much more into the relationship side. There's so many things, but the things that I worry about now are these conflicts that are happening all across the globe in the Middle East and Ukraine. I want to remove those conflicts, because those to me can grow into something much worse. And then I can see where our kids would have to be involved with those conflicts, and I want that to calm down. I bring a positive spirit and a sense of we can get this done. I don't like working with programs or going to meetings or something where there's this sense of, oh, this is too big for us, because I don't think anything is. At the level I'm working on, is we need to go in there, figure out the best way to attack this problem, and then move forward. So I tend to help move along that process of making things happen faster. That's easy.
Okay.
It's us.
Oh,
It's
okay.
MSU Denver. This is where I've committed the last 15 years of my life to working with. So I'm just impressed with steps that Dr. Jordan has taken, how the university has followed him with his ideas from providing tuition assistance and lower tuition to undocumented students, to these new buildings on campus, to this new CHU, Colorado Heights University possibilities. Mm-hmm. I think this university is making some really major impacts in the community, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I think that's great. I watch a lot of TV. I just don't watch many movies or shows. But what I do like to do is the political process is interesting to me, and you've got the MSNBC shows, and you've got the Fox News shows, and you got CNN, and they're all coming from different perspectives. So I watch them all and just get frustrated with all of them. But I like to see those different perspectives played out. So it's not a specific show, but I like watching the news channels when they've got their fake news stuff going on. Well, of course it would be to create world peace and to get rid of poverty and all those type of things. Yes. But when it comes to superpower itself, I have this conversation with my kids a lot, and they are not impressed with mine, but I grew up in the pool and I love it. I like Aquaman's powers, being able to swim underwater and talk to the marine life and that sort of thing. I like that. It might not help me here. I might have to move to the ocean cities for that to really be valuable. But
Cherry Creek Reservoir.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Yeah, seriously. I don't read a lot of those, books. I read more textbooks and books like this that I can use in classes. So that would be my answer, is that I don't have one leadership book. There's tons of leadership books, and you take a little piece of each one. This one, I've changed my mindset over the years.
Now that you've become an administrator.
Yeah, now that I have to deal with it. As a faculty member, department chair, as an employee of a lot of other companies where I've worked, my end result was I had to get to there. I had to get to this goal, and here's how I was going to do it. And some of those rules were a little loosey-goosey, and I would take advantage of that. If there was one set in stone, like you cannot do this because it'll impact our license rights with whatever company, I wouldn't touch those. But I would just go and say, oh, I didn't know I couldn't do that. Okay, I won't do it again. But now in this role, as the associate dean, everything I do, there's process to it.
Yeah.
And when people try to skip that process, it challenges everybody. That okay, someone has made this up, I need to go back and work with this person to do it the right way, which that I'm thinking about, like say, the curriculum process. A faculty member creating curriculum does not want to have their curriculum returned and say you need to redo it. But it happens all the time. And it's just such a frustrating experience for the faculty member and for me, that I'm all for follow the rules. I thought about this one a lot too. The main thing is someone who is putting together meetings and getting people together with no agenda or no outcome result of here's what we want to do with this time together. Mm-hmm. So someone who is confusing, someone who doesn't have a clear here's what I want to get to, that's not a leader, and it's easy to kind of tune off and move on to other things when that happens. In my role, it's very practical. Like, here's what's happening for these students. How can we work for this? It's very individual. So when it gets to larger policy issues, it's hard for me to think about that sometimes unless it's like, this same thing is coming up for a ton of students. Let's see if we can change this policy. Mm-hmm. So but those are lower level. There's one thing that does bother me, and that's what happens to foster kids once they age out of the system. And I think here at Mestre, I got involved with a fostering success group, and it's a group to work with foster kids as they're going to college. And what I would like to change is, if you're coming out of that foster system, and depending on what county you're in, because I want to work with the counties to try to get them to support and the businesses there, that we've got dorms now. Why can't we give them tuition, room and board that we would have scholarships pay for? Because they don't have any support. You know, a lot of other people have support somewhere, and if they can find support from their university, I think that would be a very good thing, because it's less than 1% of foster children that age out of the system get a college degree. Yeah. And that's something that bothers me. The pool. I spent most of my youth in a pool, and I'm just most comfortable there than any other environment.